You got your Cerritos there. I don't have a cool background because I'm doing this from a computer that runs Windows 7.
Oh man.
You don't get backgrounds on that.
No, I imagine not.
Although 2020 when we were doing some Zoom lessons I teach out in Japan, and I was using my iPad so I could use them back, and I just happened to have a green screen randomly at the school. It was like a divider for
Oh,
the
how
classrooms.
convenient.
Yeah, really. So I would do a lot of things, and I once or twice I put like enterprise bridges and stuff, and in Japan the kids had no clue what that was.
Oh, really? That's a shame.
They just they don't know it so well out here, but sometimes in the thrift
Bummer.
stores you can find some pretty wild stuff. What I found, I found Dax in her TOS uniform, like the Tribbles.
Ooh,
I should put
that's
that
a good
together.
one.
Old school Nurse Chapel. I mean, it's old stuff. It's not the new show.
Right. That's awesome.
Just to give you a quick tour of how this show is going to run and why I'm doing it, I'm going to put up the prologue because that's part of it.
Cool.
I'll do a quick intro, do the trivia, and then I have the guest read the prologue, the Rod
Okay.
Serling prologues. Did I get that? Maybe I didn't copy that correctly. There we go. I'm doing it now, so I avoid doing it when the show proper is rolling, right?
Yeah, it's not just doing the show, it's all the prep for the show.
Right.
Yes.
I do a fair amount of podcasting. I try and keep the prep relatively low. This one, I just made it so I can basically just take the Zoom and slap it in and it's ready to go. The only times I have to work on it. By the way, if you let an obscenity slip, that's fine. That just means I have to go find it and like put in my cool sensor. So
Right. I try to write time codes if I think of anything like, oh wow, that was terrible. Please don't use that.
Yeah, I'll glance at the clock. But a recent episode was like an hour and a half, and I was like, man, it had like 2 obscenities, and also we for some reason we got Tommy Chong to talk to us. I'm like, I'm not going to edit him. Someone can deal with the 2 obscenities in there.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of expected with him, right? Come on.
Yeah. And it was literally like 2, so I'm like, I'm not gonna go in there
2.
and find it. So
You're probably not going to get the warning from Apple
right.
Podcasts about that.
And if I do, that means I guess I'm moving up in the world. So
There you go. That's one way of looking at it.
and like I said,
but otherwise, do you try to keep it family friendly?
Well, as far as what we're actually talking about, I don't care.
Okay.
I'm just keeping I try to keep the obscenities out or edited. I have a blah, 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 like very Twilight Zone noise to
Nice.
edit it if I need to. But yeah, we did. Well, you said you're not familiar with the show, but there's one called the Chaser, and one of my closer friends was doing that episode with me. It's a love potion episode, and he listened to it. At the end, he was like, "Oh, you're gonna have to edit that." I'm like, "Dude, you gave me like 10 things to edit." and then when he listened to it, I was like, "Well, I think I said about 3 things that were cancelable in that."
Oh no!
talking about love potions can be a little dangerous, I guess.
This is true. This is true.
But yeah, we do the prologue and then just kind of riff however long we want to. These shows usually range from about 35 to an hour, so wherever it lands is fine. And then I have 3 questions at the end, which I can just spring on you when we get there if you want, or I can warn you.
Go for it.
Okay. I guess just spring it. Yeah, we'll do that later. Okay.
Take me by surprise. Now, do you do this as video or audio or both?
Basically it's an audio podcast, but since I got the video, I archive it on YouTube if unless someone says please don't.
Okay. I mean, I don't mind. I'm just curious because that does change my mindset just a little bit.
No, I would, if I watched them on YouTube, I'd never put them on YouTube just because I know I'm like moving around in my chair the whole time, and I cover myself with my notes, so I never see what I'm doing. So I see the guest, but I don't look at myself. So
with the video element, the presentation is kind of a part of it. So
yeah, I just I don't even have like a header or a bumper or anything. So usually the episode on YouTube has like 6 or 7 views, right?
That's
But
okay. That's really kind of how it goes, unless you have like a really specific reason why it's better on YouTube. Otherwise, people are like, yeah, just give me the audio because they're commuting, they're walking around, whatever.
exactly. That's why for the live show, I'll usually the mission log live, I'll usually like just send a little message at the start. But I'm actually walking down the street. I'm to the train station while you guys are on. So I only
Uh,
I only actually call in like twice a year when I'm
oh,
not
wow.
working.
On that rare day off.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what do you do in Japan?
Teaching kids from about age 2 to age 18. So
Oh, wow. All
yeah.
right. A teacher. Cool. What do you teach?
Oh, English as a second language, which is good because
Okay.
I've been in Japan for, geez, 15 plus years, and my Japanese is still like not functional. So
I can imagine. I've never tried to learn Japanese, but it looks difficult.
that's the interesting thing for looks, because as far as the simplified symbols, no problem, I can read those.
Okay.
And then the more difficult, the Chinese ones are kanji. I know a few, but yeah, I'm not going to be reading too many of those. So but in general, a lot of signs and stuff will just be in the simplified characters, and if you know them, sometimes you're getting English words. So it's funny when
Oh,
you're in a restaurant, it sometimes sounds like offensive when you're ordering, because you have to use the Japanese pronunciation. So you're like that's cheeseburgers, the coffee. It's like it sounds like you're putting them on or something, but actually
right.
if you said cheeseburgers and coffee, they might not understand you. It's weird
Interesting.
how my hometown's Atlanta, and
Oh, hey,
the,
cool.
the the symbol at the end is toe, but they think, oh, that's the Japanese sound, we need to shorten it. So when I first came, people would be like, oh, you're from Atlanta. I'm like, what's Atlanta? Like, just not
Ah,
putting that sound at the end.
Atlantis,
Yeah, well, I'd like to say that, right? Like the
yeah,
lost city of
right.
Atlanta,
This
in
mythical
Futurama.
place. You're from there.
Exactly. I like to think that. But yeah, it's so actually the for me, like, reading it's the easier part, but and listening's not too
But
bad. I can often
speaking it,
speaking is a bonk. Like, when I hear the word, I know what
yeah,
they're
I can
saying, but
imagine.
I can't like recall it myself. So
Yeah, I can do that with Spanish. I can get the context just from reading a lot of things for the most part. Speaking it, oh my gosh, it's so fast. I'm not good at all.
it's like I can't understand a bit of French, but if I look at like French, I mean, I've never taken a class, not like I know it, but if I look at a page of French, I can kind of work out because we borrow so many words. It's just, they pronounce them
Right,
very differently.
exactly.
So,
Yeah, I
um,
studied Latin way back when. And so any of the romantic languages that use those roots, I can devise just enough to understand the crux of what somebody's saying.
yeah, back in school, yeah, my I was always terrible at the languages, so it seems bizarre that I decided to move to a country where I don't speak the language. But it's kind of fun.
But
You're in a restaurant or on a train, and people are kind of loud, and you can actually really just like zoom tone them right out, because
it's a bunch of gibberish, right?
yeah. So I kind of like that, it gives you some extra
Yeah.
like privacy or something.
Yeah, that in a way that sounds kind of nice,
Yeah, that's how I'm
especially on
trying to
public
sell it.
transit.
Yeah, yeah. And also it's Japan, so it's pretty rare people are even talking on trains, especially like they're not supposed to right now, but especially
Oh, right. COVID.
Saturday, yeah, Friday, Saturday night, you'll still have the Oji-san, the drunken old men show up and start screaming at each other. So
That's every night in LA. Oh my gosh, the things you see on transit here are scary.
yeah, we have MARTA in Atlanta, so there's a few weird things on those. But yeah, Japanese trains are nice, and I'm on a little local one, so it's funny. Sometimes I'm pulling up to the station to go to work, and there's like several tourists on the platform taking pictures because train geek is a big thing in Japan.
I love it. Yeah, well, you guys actually have a very decent working system, it
Yeah,
looks like.
I basically live in the countryside, but we still have this train artery. So I actually work about, so I'm going to say kilometers because I live in Japan, but about
Sure, sure.
40 kilometers away. What's that? 25 miles. And
Yeah,
I live
roughly.
by the train station. I can be there in 5 minutes, but I like listening to podcasts. I like getting some exercise. I tend to walk one or two train stations, and yeah. Hence me
That's
not
cool though.
being on your live so that often.
That's just not a thing really in the United States. So that's super cool.
Yeah, because in Atlanta now you drive in Atlanta. I know LA is the same. I haven't been to LA, but I
Oh
know it's the
yeah,
same way.
car
So
culture is king here. I mean, we do have a light rail and a subway system, but it's plagued with problems, and everything is built for everybody to have a car. You
yeah,
know, it's not a
Atlanta's,
walkable city. It's not really a bike friendly city either. You'll see it, but it's not great.
but yeah, like in Japan, everything's so compact. Atlanta has the problem because there's nothing to bound it. Like there's no major rivers, there's no ocean, there's no mountains that close, so the city just can go on
It's just
like
there.
almost forever. Yeah.
Wow. It's got the massive urban sprawl going, doesn't it? These days.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't even been to Atlanta since 2010, so I'll have a nice Rip Van Winkle moment whenever I go because I make my parents visit here, and now
Cool.
I podcast with my friends back home. So I'm like, the only thing I need is like Mexican food because that's kind of hard to find in Japan.
Oh, yeah, I imagine so. Come to LA. We have got all the spicy bitchin' Mexican food you could
Yeah, I
want. We
know.
really do have taco trucks on every corner. It's great.
Oh
I
god,
love
yes.
that.
See, you're making me envious of that, but I at least we got the ramen shops and stuff, so I got something here.
There you go. Now I envy that because there's nothing like good ramen. Oh man.
I mean, I've been dropping like all the food pictures in the Discord.
Oh
So
yeah.
because Japan, we just don't have bad. Like if you don't open a bad restaurant in Japan, it's going to be closed in a month if you do. So it's
Right.
very rare you're going to a place and be like, man, that wasn't so good.
That's pretty awesome.
Most would be like that was made well. It's just like not my thing. That's or they'll serve you something completely insane. For example, at a company dinner, we all ate this thing. It kind of looked like tempura, it was kind of creamy. And we asked our boss, our manager was Japanese at the time. We were like, so what is it? She's like, oh, it's whale sperm, like sperm whale. She's like, no, whale sperm.
Whale sperm.
Yeah,
Well, I
and we
didn't
were
even
like,
know that was an edible product.
I did it until I ate it.
Well, now I have to ask, what did it taste like?
um, this was about 4 years ago. It it tasted like it tasted creamy.
I figured it was going to be either that or salty.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I've eaten locusts too, and especially in
Oh,
Nagano.
really?
I mean, I wouldn't like just be
Wow.
like, "Hey, I'm going to eat that." I'm not that brave about food, but we
Mm.
were at a little countryside restaurant. This is when my daughter was like 2 years old, and this is a Twilight Zone moment because yeah, little countryside restaurant, and it's service, the little extra, and the little old lady, and I don't know if they were screwing with me or what, but it is a Nagano delicacy, and so there's a plate of locusts on the table. I ate one, it tasted fine, but it's a bug, and you get the
Yeah.
everything. But yeah, my daughter's like 2 at the time and didn't have like that gag reflex, and she's just sitting there chowing down. I'm like, okay, that is a
She
Twilight Zone
doesn't know
moment.
what it means to be eating bugs.
Well, two
I'm
years old want to
assuming.
eat bugs anyway, right?
Probably, right? You're going to stick your hands in the dirt and lick your fingers later. It's nothing, right?
Right, exactly. Now she would need it. She's now she's 13, just started junior high, and
Has
not gonna eat
more
the bug now.
sophisticated palate now.
Yeah, she was more mature than me by 85 anyway. So
Yeah,
I
that's me
guess
too. I'm forever 12, so it's fine.
I guess I will get into this. I'm gonna basically just leave a 5 seconds of silence. That's my way of spotting where to make the edit. So
Okay, sounds good. And for the record, I am still recovering from COVID, but I'm going to try really hard not to cough or sniffle, so you don't have to try to remove any of that.
that's okay. Usually I cough like, but occasionally I get just like I forget that and do the opposite. I'm like, like right into the mic.
Even so, I don't want to create more work for you, so I do have water, and
Okay.
this is my first real kind of test as far as this goes. I have not done any podcasting since I tested positive. So,
Yeah, yeah. I had to do one test basically because one of my students had, and they're like, go get the test. But otherwise, did I have to do a second one? I don't remember. But yeah, there's not that. Again, people actually do wear masks and keep their distance, so we never even had to lock down.
that must be nice.
Yeah.
People
So
here are idiots.
like I hate wearing a mask. As soon as I'm out of the store, I'll flip it off, especially in summer, I'll flip it off.
Oh,
But
right.
but
Yeah.
in the store, like everyone has one. It's very weird if someone is not. So, if I'm
Yeah.
around
Oh,
the
that's
train station,
awesome.
I'll do it. But yeah.
Yeah. I would still wear it wherever there's a massive crowd of people,
Right.
you
And
know,
teaching's a little problematic because when you're teaching, especially
I
shy
bet.
students, like if it's you can't like if you want to see if they're doing or when they get a mask
Oh,
on, it's
yeah.
like
You can't see it.
yeah, and sometimes I can't tell which student just said what, so that's been embarrassing a few times. Like I'll
Oh,
respond
golly.
and
Yeah.
it's
That
like
would
this
be
is me.
tough. Yeah. That's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
I'll leave that silence and get rolling.
All right. Let's do this.
Hello, welcome to Time Enough Podcast, where we get into episodes of the Twilight Zone and beyond. This is Matt here. Joining me today is Charlynn Schmidt. Hello.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Now, I've heard you, of course, from Mission Log Live. We have a lot of Mission Log people on the show because my assumption is if you can break down a Star Trek episode, you can probably break down a Twilight Zone because I feel like the thought
Yeah,
process is kind of the same. But I know you're up to
that's reasonable.
some other podcasting as well. Can you tell folks and me about that?
Oh man, I've been doing podcasts for 10, maybe more years now. I forget. Time is a weird concept to me anymore. I just don't even know what day it is. Uh, I started off way back in the day doing the Ready Room on Trek FM and then co-hosting To the Journey, which became Punch It later on. And I still do things with my co-host for those shows, Tristan Riddell. We do a thing called Second Contact, which is a live commentary podcast on the day Lower Decks episodes are released. So we do
You'll
that. You'll find me on Mission Log Live, and occasionally you'll find me with Virtual Trek Con and that group of folks doing either like Star Trek and Chill or the Orville and Chill, whatever we're doing at the time. It's a live stream, and we're just chilling and having fun and talking sci-fi stuff.
So I guess you're about back on for Lower Decks. I believe this is airing late August, so you'll
Yeah, coming
be
right
on.
up. I'm excited.
Yeah, same here. I think half of us were like, oh, animated Trek, whatever. Wait, these are the best shows.
Yeah, I think we were all a little on edge, like, ooh, is this a good idea? Especially with a comedy. Star Trek, up until Lower Decks, really wasn't doing comedy so hot. But then Mike McMahon and his crew have blown it away. And it is probably in the top 3 of my favorite Star Trek series ever already.
That sounds about right to me. So yeah, they are hitting those out of the park. Now you say you're pretty new to the Twilight Zone, though.
Yes, I am. So here is my history on that. Back in college, a friend of mine had the Twilight Zone DVDs, and I remember watching them a couple of nights, and like eventually I just fall asleep to them. So I remember bits and pieces, but very like actual little of the stories themselves, because this was 20 something years ago now. Essentially, I'm brand new. Like watching this episode that we're going to talk about today, I feel is my reintroduction to the Twilight Zone.
And don't feel too bad on regularly. I'll put on like an anthology show like The Twilight Zone at Ray Bradbury Theater, and usually fall asleep at about the 20-minute mark, and then wake up the next morning and be like, what was the point of all of that? So.
Yeah, and I don't mean that I was bored to death by watching Twilight Zone because I fell asleep. No, we're watching it at midnight. That's why.
Yeah. Same with me. When I watch Voyager, it usually takes a few nights for the same reason. But
I get it. I get it.
It's usually not bad. Of course, there are a few of those, but
it's got its moments though. I mean, and I love Voyager, so I know fully well though that it is not a perfect show.
Today's episode is The Man in the Bottle. I'll lay out just a little bit of trivia, and if you think we've been talking too much Trek so far, I'm going to give you a little more in the trivia. So,
yay!
Air date was October 7th, 1960, and we've got a Rod Serling script for this one. Don Medford already directed the episode A Passage for Trumpet, and he will return to helm 3 more Twilight Zone episodes. While the music here is quote unquote original, it has been repurposed from last season's episode What You Need. Luther Adler played the dual roles of Arthur Castle and Adolf Hitler. He had already played Der Fuhrer in the films The Magic Face and The Desert Fox. hence him being asked to do it here. Most of his career was on Broadway, as his father was one of the founders of Yiddish theater in America. As with any good Hitler actor, Adler was Jewish. He also found himself blacklisted for a time in the 1950s, but I have a feeling that being blacklisted didn't bother Rod Serling that much, because a lot of, I think a lot of people are like kind of getting their first tenderhooks back into the industry with the Twilight Zone at this time. So
nice.
Edna Castle is played by Vivi Janis. She appeared in films such as The Phantom from 10,000 Leagues, Man on the Prowl, and First You Cry. I just like the title on the last one. I don't know that movie. Joseph Ruskin was the genie. He showed up guesting on a host of television, acting, and sci-fi in the 60s. And as Trekkies will note his many roles in the franchise, playing Galt and TOS's The Gamesters of Triskelion, roles on Voyager, Deep Space Nine, Enterprise, and he showed up as a Sona officer in Star Trek Insurrection. This gives him the hat trick of appearing in every iteration of the franchise before his death in 2013. So
I'll be darned. I didn't know he did that much.
Yeah, I'm like, well, I guess that explains why he looked kind of familiar.
Yes, and he did look familiar. I just couldn't place it.
Like Deep Space Nine is a Klingon in 2 episodes, so obviously he would have had a ton of
the makeup,
prosthetics. I think he was a Vulcan on Enterprise. I don't want to go super heavy writing the trivia part, so I did see those things, but did not put them into my own notes.
That's cool, though.
Okay, Shara, I'm throwing up the prologue. You can read it however you want. I get a lot of Serling impressions. I've had people do like redneck preachers. So, whatever your feelings.
I'm just going to read it. Let's see what happens. Mr. and Mrs. Arthur Castle, gently and infinitely patient people whose lives had been a hope chest with a rusty lock and a lost set of keys. But in just a moment, that hope chest will be opened, and an improbable phantom will try to bedeck the drabness of these 2 people's failure-laden lives with the gold and precious stones of fulfillment. Mr. and Mrs. Arthur Castle, standing on the outskirts and about to enter the Twilight Zone.
All right. And let's bring that screen back. So, yeah, you're getting, one thing on the Twilight Zone is that the flavor of the episodes are very different. When we were setting up one, this was the light one, the other was the heavy one. So your entry is a little more fun. Like, this is one where, I think even when it aired in 1960, everybody knew what the twist was.
It's not the most complex story. No, it's simple. It is a little predictable, but you know what? That is not necessarily a bad thing, in my opinion. If I were watching this at 10 years old, I would be enamored with it if this was my first episode.
Oh, if you're 10, this might be the first time you heard the story. Though I guess it's something you'd hear pretty early in elementary school. But 60 years down the line, a lot of these episodes, even if you haven't seen the episode before, you might start and be like, I know where this is going, because it's kind of in pop culture. So
sure.
So the main thing is, like, in that preceding 20 minutes, like how well are they doing it, which is the strength of the show. They usually do it pretty well. So I guess my question is, how dated or not dated did this come across watching it?
Interestingly enough, it did not seem that dated. First off, we're dealing with an antique store. So we're dealing with stuff from different time frame, and this could have been an antique store today, as far as I'm concerned. What was your interpretation of that?
Mine doesn't count for the production of the show. Again, I watch a lot of anthology shows. So what comes to my mind is some of the 80s shows, like the Friday the 13th TV show, which takes place from like kind of an antique store. What's the other?
Okay.
The Highlander TV series. It's sort of this setting, which might be the reason, because he's a Highlander. So you want it to feel like, timeless. Maybe that's why it's set there. Friday the 13th could be the same idea. I haven't seen that show since the 80s. So I think they would have like cursed items in their store, and there'd be a story about that or something. I don't quite remember.
More than I do. I have never watched the show.
No, this is Saturday afternoon in like the late 80s. So I'm working on memories that old.
Gotcha. I was a smaller kid in the 80s, so watching scary stuff really wasn't for me. I would watch unsolved mysteries before bed, and it would give me nightmares. So that's what I was working with.
Well, you want to get that fight or flight response before you go to bed, right?
I guess. I don't know. I'm surprised my mom even let me watch it.
Probably begrudgingly, right?
I mean, the thing is, though, is I still managed to go to sleep. It's just I would have nightmares later about what
Yeah.
I watched.
Yeah. A lot of the Twilight Zones will give you the nightmares still. Even now, this one won't. I don't know.
Nah.
The genie's face could show up in your nightmare. So
That seems plausible. Yes.
I mean,
That's okay, though.
I mean, Disney movies show up in your nightmare sometimes. It's weird how that works, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, just a spontaneous memory popping up. Why in the world did I think about this? It's been 30 years.
One thing with Edna Castle, she's relatively sensible the whole time. Like, this is weird. This is, she's probably read The Monkey's Paw before. She knows where this is going. And then when he comes up with the worst of all the ideas, that's when she's just suddenly like, yeah, let's do it.
Okay, I'm really glad you brought this up. I did not understand why she was suddenly on board with this idea of all of them, the worst one. No, Edna, no. No, Arthur, no.
I think this is one. It's probably pretty likely I have seen this one before, but it's not one like I remember well. And my note, just before that is when he's thinking about the final wish to be, in charge of countries. He's wishing to be Hitler, isn't he?
Yeah. Now, I did not predict Hitler, but I knew that this was an awful idea. If you are wishing for irrecoverable power, this is not going to end well for you. He does not think this through at all. And you would have thought after the whole thing with the $1 million, he would have just taken a little bit more of a moment. Maybe he and Edna could have talked this through a little bit, but no, they seem to lose any common sense between the two of them whatsoever. It's quite sad, actually.
My expectation was they would have something very Hitler-esque, but I didn't think they go directly to 1945 bunkers and swastikas, I guess.
No, they went right for it, and they were front and center, weren't they?
But learning that the actor had already done Hitler a few times, it made sense. Like,
Yeah.
Is it Bruce Greenwood who's like played JFK on like multiple occasions?
Oh golly, I'm not sure.
There's
Possibly.
been a few there's someone who they usually at different periods of time, those in different productions, they'll grab the same guy to play Lincoln or something, So
Sure.
I think
Right, because they got the look. You sign them up.
Yeah, exactly. So what are the wishes here? The first one's $1 million. No, the first wish is to fix the pane of glass.
Yeah, we're starting out very small and conservative just to see what happens, which maybe lulls Arthur and Edna into a false sense of security.
Yeah, that fourth wish is the one that's the dangerous one, I guess, right? Because you get 3 wishes, but he's like, no, I'll give you a test wish. I'm going to let you have 3 legit wishes and one just so I'm not full of it, right?
I did wonder about that fourth wish because you always hear about 3 wishes. He's doing a 4th. That told me that this genie has been around. He has done this a few times. He knows what's going to happen.
And
he's prepared.
And of course, I think I shouldn't just assume all of us have seen Aladdin a lot, but most of us have, our vintage probably have. And
Sure.
And I was like, Robin Williams genie like does not want to be in the bottle, where this guy's like, he must have like a man cave in there or something, because he seems perfectly happy to go back in.
Maybe it's like the Doctor Who TARDIS, where it's a lot bigger on the inside. He might have a really luxurious room in there for all we know.
Yeah, or maybe he just shrinks himself and he lives in a bottle world of his own.
Right. Maybe he's only like micro inches here.
That could be the follow-up episode, a bottle world of its own. I like that.
Yeah, we need the follow-up. We really do.
So wish number 1's a bit small. Edna at this point does have the right idea. I did find it interesting in her protesting. She goes with the word unholy.
Yeah. So this is just coming, I guess, from the fact that maybe she's a religious person. That's the context I get out of it.
Yeah, which does, I guess, make a genie like a little more problematic, right? I mean, that's the same. Basically, it's a demon from a Christian perspective. Although demons in old school can be good or bad. They're just, outside sources. So
yeah, or she's just getting creeped out by the very idea, and that's the word that came to mind as maybe sacrilegious or something. I don't know. We didn't get enough background to really know the context of that word, but it is a choice for sure.
right. Well, in the Middle East, they have the jinn, right? So that's where the genie directly come from, and would be the analogous idea to Western daemons. Do it the Greek way, so we can include.
Sure.
I like the idea that it's, they're more or less tools, and although they will trick you if they're the nasty ones, right? So,
Right.
this is a nice nasty one. He's almost got a nice smile, except for the fact that it's super creepy.
Well, it is a little creepy. I didn't think he was an evil guy, though. It just he comes out, he's summoned, and he's going to do this thing. He kind of knows that this is going to end badly, but what did he say? Every once in 101 years,
Yeah,
this happens.
exactly. So
he reminded me, for whatever reason, of the meme of condescending Wonka by the way that he talked.
Okay,
oh, you really think you're going to do $1 million, huh? We'll see how that goes. Sort of like that.
Yeah, Willy Wonka actually is sort of, like the emotional beats are sort of similar, where people keep, in that case, they're just wishing for candy and meeting horrible ends. But
True.
we call $1 million, candy if you want. So yeah, but yeah, the first one is the Dr. Evil wish. He only wishes for $1 million.
Only $1 million, which of course backfires, and we knew it would.
I mean, I'd take it. Yeah, and when the IRS comes calling, don't leave a giant pile of money on your floor. That's rule number one.
Yeah. Again, not thinking. One, they didn't think it through because the whole tax-free thing, the genie calls him out on that. But then, yeah, he's also getting 5s and 10s. That's a lot of bills for $1 million. Condense that just a little bit and haul it to the bank, man. Put it under the mattress, something.
Low budget Uncle Scrooge, with his big vault of money. So they just roll around in a pile of bills.
I guess maybe that was the idea.
The genie just kind of hang out waiting for things to go wrong. He's just kind of sitting in the back, leaning and with the creepy smile on his face. So
he does. He's just going to sit and watch, and he's entertained.
Shouldn't he go away for a while or something? Hell, he's out of his bottle. Go get some Mexican food, right?
If I were him, I would definitely get a burrito while you still can, bro.
Oh, my note was, do you have to wish for him to go away? Is that a wish?
Oh, that's a really good question. I didn't think about that. That could have been the fourth wish, right? Okay, we're done. Can you go now?
That would have been a better twist. No, it wouldn't have been a horrible twist.
Well, let's say Arthur was about 3 times smarter than he was about this whole thing, and he got 3 really good, well thought out wishes. That's how this would have ended. But that's not the moral of the story.
Here's the weird thing, though. And so far in our conversation, we've made Arthur sound like an idiot, but it's shown at the beginning he's got like a kind heart. He helps the lady with her, bottle scam. What does he do with the 1 million? He starts giving it away. We just heard a few episodes where just spread your money like fertilizer so it'll grow. So it's like his heart's in the right place, but he's still like getting shafted. I guess that's the thing with being handed genie wishes. It doesn't. I mean, Aladdin also gets kind of shafted from his wishes, and other than stealing bananas and stuff, he doesn't seem that bad.
Yeah, poor Arthur. He really has been down on his luck in this whole time, and I think that helps him pay it forward, which also backfires when he's only got $5 left after he gives it all away, and then the IRS takes almost the rest of it.
Yeah, I do wonder if in 1960, as soon as you see the money pile on the floor, is IRS the first thing that goes through your mind at that point? Now it does.
I really don't know.
How much money you're going to get taxed on it? Yeah.
Did the genie summon the IRS agent? Because he showed up awfully fast.
Yeah, who reported? Exactly. Who reported this? Did someone be given $50,000 and was like, I'm gonna go report this guy who just gave me $50,000? That's super not cool.
No, it had to have been the genie, right?
Yeah. I was like, it's not a bad time to just peel off to Bermuda for a while,
Right. Have you not heard of offshore bank accounts at this point in history yet?
Yeah, exactly. So that's wish number 2. Oh, okay. Wish number 3, of course, has to be the horrible one because wish number 4 is
The
unwishable. Right?
worst.
Yeah. So, just before he makes this, I was wondering if this is like a mildly psychedelic death of a salesman, but but then I'm like, only a psychopath wants to be the head of a country, so maybe
This is a very good point. So, what is this saying about Arthur? Is he just not using his brain because he thinks power is going to be awesome? Or is he deep down like got some secret life going on here?
And then that is when his wife decides, like, instead of like making him try to think more, I guess I'll just be an enabler now.
Why? It just completely detracts from everything else that she's been doing up to this point. I almost wish she was the one who had the wishes, because she was the one who was actually trying to put the brakes on things and say, wait. Let's try to be reasonable about this. But Arthur, definitely on the more impulsive side than she was.
It's funny because like I told you, I teach kids, and sometimes we're practicing English and doing moves for a game on the board, and I have a kid that come up, and especially when they're like a little older, like 12 or 13, and I'm like, come on, you have a little bit of strategic mind, don't you? And they just make like a terrible move. I'm like, are you sure you want to do that? They're like, yeah. Are you sure? You're sure? Like, yeah. They sit down, and then me as the next move, or another student, comes, just trounces them, and they're like, oh my God, I didn't see it. I'm like, warned you like twice. Like, look at it again and think about
That
it.
should have been your clue there to try again.
Because even the genie's like, I can do that, but are you sure you don't want to reword that a little bit first?
Like, read the room. So
Yeah.
he's really trying to guide Arthur to doing the better thing here, and he's still just there's no hope for the poor guy.
So
maybe this is why he's so unlucky. He's just not putting things together.
he's nice, but he's dim, I guess. So
Maybe, or his logic centers just aren't cranking the wheels like they used to. Maybe he's not a spring chicken anymore. He's not old, but he is middle-aged. Maybe he's just not used that part of his brain enough to keep it nice and running.
this might be a fun place, just as a like a late stage sort of re-edit of this episode, where you can keep the dialogue and everything, but now we take out the bunker scene and just put in that meme of downfall, and then put Arthur's dialogue in as Hitler screaming. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I really don't.
Okay, there's a movie, Downfall, which it's a very good German movie.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, you know the meme.
Sorry,
okay.
no, and I remember
Okay.
this. Yes.
So I'd like to just
So many memes.
Yeah, nothing wrong with the scene in this, but I mean, it's a very small bunker because they have a budget. But take the downfall one and just put in the dialogue there. That could be kind of fun.
That could be kind of interesting. Somebody, if they haven't done this already, needs to get on that and make it happen.
Yeah. Now, the other thing, just because I do a lot of reading and think whack ideas, I was wondering if he's suddenly transported to become Hitler in the bunker, does that mean he's now also whacked out on amphetamines?
Oh boy, he could have been, right?
Yeah.
If he's in Hitler's body has the amphetamines, and he is Hitler, so therefore.
I don't know. Why was I looking this up? A few weeks ago, I was looking up. Someone had mentioned because someone mentioned we don't know exactly what was the last picture of him. Because it would have been taken like 3 or 4 weeks before. It's not like they were taking photos in the bunker, right?
True, yeah.
But the whole point was, and some of it was like in the spring, winter, spring of 45, his health decline was so horrible. Part of trying to figure out when the photo was taken was just how bad does he look?
Right, because if you've ever looked at those before and after photos of meth users, their first photo, they're usually like young and they look fantastic, bright future ahead. And then in the second one, they are 85, downtrodden, missing teeth. It looks terrible.
And this isn't any word on politics, because this is every president is the same thing. If you look at the beginning of their term and the end of their term, it does not look at all like they have aged for 8 years. It looks like they've aged 20 or 30. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's hard work.
That's one thing I'll definitely worry for Biden.
Well, yeah, he's already 79 now, is that right?
Yeah, and well, I'm just saying he started off, when he was inaugurated, he
Right.
already looked really old. So I
That's
think
because he was.
we
Yeah.
might. I'm thinking, especially if he goes 8 years, we're gonna have like the crypt keeper by the end.
Oh my goodness. He'll just be like a withered old man, barely moving around. Yeah, wrinkly flesh. That's all we'll see. Poor guy.
Oh, and
I
I
don't know.
do.
We'll see.
We're gonna get back to the episode a little bit, but you were you watching this on, I don't know, Paramount Plus or a disc, or
I was watching on a Paramount Plus. Yeah.
does it have the bumpers at the end, like a little bit of network adverts?
No.
Okay. I'm just mentioning, I've already recorded, actually yesterday I recorded the episode that comes after this. And there's a shot just of Rod Serling like looking at you, and then you're looking down on a room. And it's just like very vertigo inducing. And I didn't mention that in that
Interesting.
episode.
Okay.
So,
I missed this entirely.
oh, maybe I'll just send an image because it's so weird, it's kind of hard to explain. But getting back to this one. Yeah, I guess the last thing about the episode proper is like, I'm pretty like they seem to be struggling, but it can't be that expensive to replace your glass.
I don't know. What were glass prices and installation like at this time? Maybe
I
it was
think
more at a premium than it might be today.
it could be. Yeah. Hell, I mean, you slide them in. I don't know. Anyway, it gives like a little character. Anyway, have a shattered glass pane in your antique store somewhere, I guess.
Right. Well, it would be like an easy replacement though. So if you just get the pane of glass, maybe you could even do it yourself.
Yeah, if it slides, it wouldn't be that big a deal. So I guess that's the thing. That
I
was
don't
the
know.
first. That was the first wish. So, he could have just made that happen on his own without too much trouble.
Possibly. Although giving away $1 to the old lady was a big deal. So
Yeah,
maybe
that's true.
maybe things are kind of dire there.
Yeah, I was about to say they could sell some of it off, but it's the place you already sell it off. So I guess you can't do that.
No.
As I mentioned, I have a few questions about each episode.
All right.
I thought that, well, they're vague enough that people take them many different ways. The first one being, who exactly in this episode went through the Twilight Zone?
Ooh, boy. At first, I would say Edna, actually, because her mind is racing with possibilities and she's trying to get a grip on this. But then I would say by the time Arthur is Hitler, it's him.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
He's flipping out. And this is absolutely not what I thought. No, I want it all back.
Yeah, as soon as you like open your eyes and you're Hitler, I think you're definitely got your feet firmly planted in the Twilight Zone. I thought it was interesting that you mentioned Edna being in the Twilight Zone in the earlier part, because I felt like that weird switch in demeanor when she suddenly like, yeah, let's make wishes. Like that was kind of the switch flip. And we've seen that in a couple episodes now, especially with the female characters, where it's like somewhere in the episode, like the key gets turned and now they're like, they've lost their agency or they're a different character. Whereas the male characters tend to get more just like, frantic and hysterical. Like it's like their character doesn't change. They just go off the rails,
off
right?
The deep end.
But
interesting. This is a theme, huh?
It's that's the thing of doing every episode in the Twilight Zone. You start to notice, because I'm just thinking some examples would be the chaser. I mentioned the love potion one where once she takes the potion, she's suddenly lost her agency completely. There's another recent one that had a world of his own where the characters basically discover they're not real. So and that kind of
would
changes
send you off the deep end.
Yeah, kind of changes your personality. So I don't think anyone was like, hey, let's just change these women completely. But it was 1960s television, which is progressive for 1960s. Like, the guy's hiring blacklisters, but
it's an interesting dichotomy just because you could write it off maybe as a sexist thing, but if the guy is kind of going off the deep end in a way too, it sounds more like a pattern of the writer.
That could be the case. I don't think Serling himself wrote all those scripts, but I'm sure he had a hand in, he was definitely approving them in first and second season.
Sure. So maybe it's a Rod Serling thing. I don't know.
Well, I noticed, again, I'm getting into the future, but the next two episodes, both also written by Serling, have him bringing up Mortal Kombat. So, when I'm making my notes, of course,
Oh,
I'm writing in all caps, Mortal Kombat, right? But
finish him.
yeah, exactly. But that's the thing. I'm like, well, that's something where I'm pretty sure he wasn't like, oh, I'm going to use it 2 weeks in a row because it's a cool phrase. That's where his brain was at the time, where that phrase seemed like one to use. So
Right.
maybe
Also, they didn't have VCRs back in the 60s. You were going to watch this program and then be on to the next one. You may or may not see it in a rerun. They weren't really thinking about maybe long-term value of rewatching shows, I don't think.
that is true. So the second question I asked, so I guess we can leave this for Edna and author, is did they deserve their trip through the Twilight Zone?
Ooh. Arthur deserved what he got.
Yeah, he did wish for it.
Yeah. Now, did they themselves deserve to go? You could make that argument just because they are down on their luck and this could have given them a fighting chance. But I don't know. I'm a little on edge about that one, and I can't completely put a finger on why.
I think I see the genie as being a little more malicious as you, like he's like actively screwing with these people. Like Beetlejuice or something. The couple in Beetlejuice, I wouldn't say really deserved what they got. I mean, the people that move in later, of course, did, but but
So what you're saying is like this couple really didn't deserve to be tortured in a sense by the genie. Why did he pick him? Why couldn't he have picked some horrible person that deserved to burn and stuff like that?
exactly, because I'm like, a life lesson isn't really like wishing yourself to be Hitler. I don't think we need that life lesson.
No, let's not.
Now, the life lesson of you get $1 million out of nowhere and they're going to tax 95% of it. Okay, maybe that's a lesson to know if you're running a business. So,
yeah, and he is. So you also think maybe he'd have a little more sense in that. But again, impulsive decisions lead to bad consequences. It really is the whole be careful what you wish for adage in practice right here. It's a simple story, but I love that.
maybe they spend too much time basically by themselves. Because again, even when he's wishing for his $1 million, I was not thinking that was actually going to be the plot point that he should say a tax-free $1 million. Like even for me, I'm like, say tax-free, dude, because they'll come for it. And they did much faster than expected. I thought there'd be like a time jump or something, and they'd be like, we bought this car, and now oh crap, because I mean
maybe the budget wasn't able to accommodate a futuristic car.
I mean, they come out $5 ahead, right? And since the $1 at the beginning was a sacrifice, yeah,
right.
So sometimes
of
$5
course,
is
you know what? They're going to have to use that $5 to replace the glass because he does break it at the very end.
Yeah, except it seems it's been broken forever anyway. So maybe they're too lazy.
He's probably just going to do it again and again. You might as well get a couple more breaks in there while you're at it, then replace it.
But yeah, I guess that makes sense with a genie maliciously messing with people. So, I think the genie is basically of the Twilight Zone, which is, I mean, the word genie itself sounds Twilight Zone-y, so it's
sure he's got that chaotic energy that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't do this now because everyone would expect like a manic Robin Williams genie or something. I didn't see Will Smith's genie. I don't know how that worked out. So
yeah, I can't say I watched that either.
I do another podcast where I like look at Disney movies, but I can't really be bothered to watch the live action ones. I'm like, well, they're just animated again, but in CGI this time.
There you go.
Especially a Lion King. I was like, what are you doing? It's literally an animated movie again.
I don't know, man.
My wife hates the Lion King because there's the 80s the white lion anime, and she's like, it strips that off. So she's got a bone to pick with the Lion King.
All right, that sounds fair.
I enjoy the movie myself. It's just funny how much bile she, because I guess as a child she really liked the 80s Japanese one. So
gotcha.
Then there's the American one that becomes super popular. I still have
of course.
I still got something in my crawl about the Minions because
hey.
Yeah, I mean everyone loves. I have a thing about them because we really loved Megamind. We're like, why didn't Megamind become the big sensation?
Okay, I've got to ask, what's Megamind?
Exactly. It was it was another CGI superhero, like, well, kind of super villain film. Excuse me, Megamind's a villain. Who David Cross? I think maybe it was Will Ferrell doing the voice, but we love that movie because
Oh,
it came out
okay.
about the same time as Despicable Me, and
Oh, wow. And it
so
did not get the notoriety
right, we saw
Despicable
both
Me did.
movies, and you're like, oh, Despicable Me was like okay, but Megamind, that was great, and
Hmm.
again, it's 2022, and you're like, what's Megamind? So exactly.
Yeah. I'm also not the biggest connoisseur of kids movies, or at least movies that are kind of the target audience for kids. So I
Yeah,
don't
this
have
was
kids. So
right, and I had a toddler at the time, so if we were watching. Now there's no animation, 13-year-olds don't, well, except for anime, but I can't watch the anime
yeah.
because she's like, Dad can't be in the room when I'm watching anime.
Ah,
We went to the movie theater last weekend. She wanted to see an anime there, and we had to like wait in the lobby.
oh, wow.
Yeah, well, it's
Okay.
got,
Well, 13, that sounds about right.
yeah. I mean, it had like mildly smutty humor in it. I'm like, I don't care.
But it's embarrassing if you're there, Dad.
Yeah. I guess that's it. I mean, I wasn't like, I was like, hey, maybe I'll go see another movie. Thor had just come out at the time, but
Uh-huh.
but the anime was like 68 minutes, and Thor's like what 2.5 hours, so that wasn't going to work out.
Yeah. That's a disparity for sure.
My third question is the tripometer. Uh, Previously, when we were all blogging, I wrote psychedelic record reviews and would do quality and the tripometer. Just how trippy is it from 0 being not trippy at all to 5 being really, really trippy, and that depends on like your definition of the word. So,
Hmm.
I've had cases where I'm like, I give it a 4 and they give it a 0, but for, like it's too real, so it's not trippy, that sort of thing.
This one doesn't strike me as super trippy, and I'm sure the Twilight Zone can get really trippy. For the record, I'm going to have to watch more Twilight Zone now, just because it is an anthology series. I can watch one episode. It's a complete short story beginning with an end. And then I can go on and I'm not like hanging, and I could get it done quickly, like over lunch. So I'm sure there's far more of a trip factor than this. This seems very low on the scale, and I'm just going to go for a 2.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm going for 3 just because I'm like, you suddenly find yourself as Der Fuhrer is pretty trippy. And
It is. I guess it's the predictability that takes it down for me, where it was no surprise that he became Adolf Hitler.
I guess for me, it's because again, I probably saw this like 25 years ago and maybe kind of subconsciously remember, but with the tax thing and the Hitler thing, I was like kind of snarkily thinking that, and then oh, that's exactly where they're going. So it was predictable, but I'm like, haha, wouldn't it be funny if they did that? Oh, they are doing that. Okay, cool. So that could be like where my extra point comes from. Like they were like, yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. Have fun.
Okay, that makes sense.
But no, like oh, I don't want to spoil episodes for you. Excuse me, I haven't seen that many. But yeah, and if you are rewatching them, the nice point is that it's like there's not even like a two-parter or a sequel. At most, you'll
Right.
go to later series and find a remake of an episode. But
Okay.
it does bound itself with we have to have like new original ideas like every time, which I like. 10 years ago when I was teaching, if I told a good joke to a class, I wouldn't tell it to the next class. They'd be like, I already told that joke. I can't use it again, even though it's like completely different people. That at that time I was also teaching adults, so maybe they'd read that I was like just playing it again. Now that I teach kids,
Sure.
yeah, I'll do the same joke in every class all day because they all giggle. But
Sure. And by now you probably know it works.
exactly, and I'm a little more, I guess, confident that well, they, or just understanding that I'm the only person here that knows I'm repeating myself.
Yeah, it's true. They don't know that.
Right, because 10
They
years
don't know
ago,
how many other classes you're teaching.
yeah, it's 10 years ago, maybe it's like, well, I won't be entertaining myself because I've already done it. But again, the kid reactions, I guess you're still entertaining yourself even when you're repeating it. So
Yeah, sure. Nothing wrong with that.
but Yeah, I'm thinking, since this is your sort of re-entry into Twilight Zone, is this like a quintessential episode?
That
I
was a question I had for you, was how is this episode regarded in the Twilight Zone canon? Is it looked upon fondly? Is it just okay?
I would probably give it the just okay. Like, again, I usually don't go for these qualities, so everything in it's like well made, but it's using, what, a Robert Louis Stevenson story. It's using the monkey's paw, like it's using like stories like people know. So
Okay. Uh-huh.
it doesn't maybe have quite the originality of like a real sharp Twilight Zone. It doesn't.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
A really good one is gonna, have you thinking about the nature of reality, or having a feeling of existential dread, which this one doesn't do. This one shouldn't.
No.
Like we said, this one shouldn't be giving you nightmares, unless just the genie's face is going to pop up in your
Yeah,
nightmare.
unless Adolf Hitler, though, maybe is popping up in your dreams. That's stuff of nightmares.
Yeah. What
But
was
yeah,
that movie with you?
otherwise,
Oh yeah, Jojo Monkey. I still haven't seen that, where the boy's like imaginary friend is Hitler or something.
oh, I haven't seen that
It's
either.
it's it's a guy that directed the last two Thor movies, and I can't pronounce his name.
Oh, and see, I'm awful about superhero movies. It's just not a thing that I really have been into ever. And I know there's a gazillion of them now. I don't go to the movies that often.
Actually, podcasting, I've kind of fallen off the superhero wagon, because I was like, super down with the MCU, and one of my other podcasts is talking about sci-fi films. I was like, man, we'll probably be doing like a third of the movies we do will be superhero movies. I looked back,
Uh-huh.
and it's like, we did Spider-Man 1 and 2. We did like a 70s Spider-Man TV movie. we did we did an animated Batman. We did Batman Begins, and that's it. 3 years of podcasting. That's all the superhero movies we
Wow.
got to, because we quickly found like there's not that much to talk about. We did Spider-Man 2, and both of us, my co-host is even a more massive Spider-Man fan, and both of us like, I think we said everything we wanted to say about Spider-Man.
Yeah, a lot of times it's the same kind of story, just a different hero and their capabilities. And I don't know, I'm not terribly into action flicks that are just loaded with amazing, mind blowing CGI. It's just not for me. I'd rather be watching Star Trek or my other favorite, Beavis and Butthead, all of which is on Paramount Plus now, which is fantastic. They've got me as a customer for life. And there's so much other content with streaming services these days that I can't keep up with TV, much less that and movies. It's just impossible.
I just for this podcast, I posted the episode Mr. Beavis a few days ago, and I spent 20 minutes looking for like a great Beavis quote, and then I realized,
Uh-huh.
it's spelled differently. I can't really get away with it.
Oh, darn.
Well, I ended up putting up the entire, the header for the podcast is just you know WWBD question mark for what would Beavis
Okay.
do.
Beavis.
Yeah. So if you want to, if you are like, I want to think about Beavis and Butthead in that context, yeah, sure, why not? I fully support that.
All right, cool.
I do need to have a look at that, because it really has. I think the last time I really saw a lot of Beavis and Butthead was the time of that first movie in the late '90s, which I saw
Oh,
in the theater
hey.
and all that. So that's something maybe
Yeah.
I need to like reintroduce myself to.
Yeah, dude. They are starting to bring back the classic episodes with the videos that aired with it. And that's not happened since the show had aired in the 90s, because I'm sure they had to finagle a lot with getting those rights. But ever so slowly, they're bringing those back. And there's also a new movie that's streaming, and it's called Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe.
Yeah, I can
You're
get into
mixing your
that.
sci-fi with your Beavis and Butthead.
Exactly. Because my parents didn't get cable till I went off to like school, so the only like on the air Beavis and Butthead I would have seen would have been like at friends' houses with the video, because I do remember
Mm,
seeing it with the videos and stuff. But
sure.
I,
Well, they
I
were playing it all the time on MTV.
yeah, that's I guess that was their last ditch attempt to like actually show videos.
Yeah, it was pretty close to the end, I think. Yeah.
Another one that this one's way more obscure, but it's Alex Winter's project from Bill and Ted.
Uh-huh.
And he had a show. There's probably only like 10 episodes. The Idiot Box, which was sketch comedy with videos. So one episode you get
Oh.
like probably 10 minutes of content. But hey, actually, now that we do streaming comedy, I know was it Tim Robinson's show is usually like 10 minutes. So
Yeah, you can
like
do anything. Time limits are not an issue now. It's kind of nice.
yeah, it is. So is there anything else you want to throw out in this episode? I don't know if I answered your question firmly about how this one stacks in the Twilight Zone, because
No, you did. You did. Was that the 5 questions?
it's 3 questions.
Oh, it's 3. Sorry about that.
I don't know.
I
Maybe
thought it was 5.
I could like try and think of 2 more.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Okay,
No,
here-
I think the big takeaways from this episode are fairly obvious. Like, be careful what you wish for. Maybe something about how the grass seems greener on the other side. It's really not. You think being rich would be awesome, but really that comes with its own set of rules and problems and stuff. And maybe to appreciate what you have, even if it isn't much.
Yeah, because being happy and being wealthy are very much 2 different metrics. So
Absolutely. Yes. We like to equate them as the same thing, but they are not.
because you have very rich, very happy people, but you also have ones that are like ready to just see the world burn. So
Exactly. And you can have very little, but have a very rich life at the same time.
and also realizing that just because you don't have money in the bank doesn't mean things won't come along.
Right. Right.
So
And maybe there is hope for Arthur yet, because he does seem like a good person. Maybe something is going to work in his favor by spreading kindness.
yeah. I mean, he clearly is not a good analytical thinker, but
Yeah, but maybe he doesn't need a genie for good things to come his way.
maybe at
He's just not up
101
yet.
years, in 101 years, the genie will find himself facing someone that can actually like think through things.
Either that, or he shows up and I don't know, it's an elderly Elon Musk or something who has destroyed the world by this point. And the genie, you know what you got to do if that happens. Just go, do it, destroy it.
Or they're too busy playing VR games to notice the genie's even there. That'd be fun.
Oh, that could be. Yeah, the metaverse just takes over and nobody cares that there's a genie.
Right, exactly. It's like, well, I make anything happen in my metaverse. I don't care about your analog mysticism.
Right. I just wish for it in the metaverse and it's here. What do I need you for?
I guess we'll wrap up today. So Shannon, it's somewhere in late August. If you want to tell people what you're up to so I think this I don't know if you're going to Vegas or not, but I think we're talking post Vegas when this airs.
Well, I do plan on going to Vegas. That's probably going to be the big thing happening for me in August.
So how was it?
I hope it was amazing. Other than that, I will be doing my live commentaries. Well, not live commentaries, but my podcast commentaries with Tristan Riddell for Second Contact as soon as we have Lower Decks up and firing again. So be on the lookout for that if you're interested in Lower Decks.
I might have to go in for that because I need a little more Lower Decks chatter, I think. So
yeah, if you can't get enough Lower Decks, come listen to us and we'll talk about it more.
As for this podcast, it is Time Enough Podcast. We're Time Enough Pod on Twitter and Facebook, and we're part of the Patreon podcasting umbrella of Podcastius. Come support us there, or just use it as a source to find our other podcasts where we talk about sci-fi flicks at Matt and Luke's Sci-Fi Sanctuary. And there's plenty of stuff for the gamer there as well, with Luke Loves Pokemon and Monster Mash, which talks about Monster Hunter, and the Game Show. I'm not a gamer anymore. I've become for gamers I've become an embarrassment. I play puzzle games on my iPad now, like a
hey, there's nothing wrong with puzzle games. They're awesome.
Like someone in a retirement home.
Hey, it's good for your brain though.
That's what I keep telling myself. I
can't say that about The Sims.
Yeah, I try to be busy on an iPad though, making music or reading books. I try not to do too much gaming. So
you're being productive.
yeah, but not when I'm playing a puzzle game. So, yeah. Okay, you have to make a wish. What is your wish for the genie?
Do I say it out loud or do I just make the wish?
You have to tell the genie the wish, I believe. I don't think he can read your mind.
Do you? Oh, golly. Okay, I did not think this through. Kind of like Arthur here. Hmm. You know what? No, I do not want to wish for anything. I'm pretty content. I'm good. Come back in 100 years, Genie.
They do point out you can't wish for more wishes. Can you wish for less wishes? So be like, I'm out.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
want
Or is
one.
your first wish, Genie, would you go away and then that's it? You're done. You cancel your other wishes.
I'm just gonna cut there. Yeah, you gotta have an.
Did
Gotta
I
have it.
completely destroy that?
No, no, I like that
I'm sorry.
you wish for a genie to go away and the episode ends. That's perfect.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I really couldn't think of anything that was actually thoughtful. So that's one of those things where I would muse on it for hours to make sure I've got every permutation of this figured out, mapped out in my brain. What could go wrong? How specific do I need to be to try and make a really good attempt? And then it would still probably blow up in my face, but I would try.
Yeah, and I'd probably wish for a whole bunch of musical equipment, but then I'd have to keep the family house, which means I couldn't use it that often, and then my wife would be pissed off because I'd have so much stuff.
Right? See, consequences. Everything comes with its host of problems.
Yeah, but I my day off is Monday, and a friend and I, or a coworker too, but we went up to that house, and I have these big analog synthesizers I can barely use, and we just got them and like jammed out on for a while. It's like, that's great.
Nice. But that was fun.
Yeah, because usually I'm just like on an iPad, which iPads have very good sounding synthesizers these days, but it is nice to just get the equipment, have all the knobs to throw around,
Yeah.
play a
The
keyboard.
physicality of it, I'm sure, is just a whole new edge.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
But yeah, thanks for coming in today. If we've got you hooked, I'll probably bring you in for another one at some point. So I've been
Sure. I'd love to watch another one.
I have this totally weird list of people where it's like a lot of mission log people, and then like, weird mystics and like borderline conspiracy theorists. So
Oh, wow. That's an interesting cast of characters, but that's, I'm sure, what makes the show fun to listen to. You don't really know what you're going to get. You've got a grab bag to choose from.
like, there's one guy I like talking to him. We did 2 episodes, but a few people I think were like, this guy's a little too nuts, dude, because he started going on a little bit about the reptile people. So
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Some people really believe that.
not in the extrasense way. I think he actually did explain. I don't literally mean this. I mean people that don't have like, enough empathy or whatever. So but in a podcast, people just hear, reptile people, and that's a trigger, isn't it?
Yeah, it pretty much is. You hear that, and then everybody's mind explodes with all of the nonsense.
Like, I love reading or listening to someone's, like breakdown of why we didn't actually go to the moon. Do I believe that? No. But I like hearing people like explain like why they think there's a secret space program or something. But I guess my credo is I choose not to believe in anything, so I don't really have to, double down on it.
There you go. Yeah, I remember when conspiracy theories used to be fun, and you could just muse on it, like, what if that was real? Well, that would be really interesting. And then you're not harmed by it. You go about your day. The world is not just collapsing in front of you. It's just this thing you thought about. A little Mulder, a little Scully, and you have fun.
Yeah. And I had a bit of that in podcasting, because earlier I could bring folks on like that, and it was like all fun and games. And now I have to like, what are exact what
right? Where how much do you actually believe this?
And they're not pressing my button so much. Again, I try not to believe in anything in particular, but I just know like some people listening are going to hear me, what?
Right. They're just I get it.
But that's
all right.
I've been doing the Disney films. I caught Disney because that guy is like a borderline one, but he worked for Disney. He knows animation. We love the films, and we're just looking at like what kind of like weird magical symbolisms in this, because Disney himself was into that stuff.
Oh sure,
yeah. So it's like, but that's the thing. Now people are like, "Are you doing conspiracy theory?" Not quite.
Not quite. No, because that was based in a real thing.
Yeah, we're not talking about Disney being a Nazi. I mean, maybe it was. I don't know, but we're just like looking at this film. What's there?
But
what
you're not talking about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, good times.
Well, I will talk to you another time. Like I said, this is going to be up somewhere in late August, and I'll probably send a note and try to Twitter hook it and all that at the time. So.
Oh, great. Yeah, I'll retweet.
Okay. Have a good evening then.
All right. Thank